Hello and welcome to Let's Make a Character. I'm Paul Stefko. This week I didn't do as much engagement with folks out there on the internet. I only ran a couple of polls. I decided I wanted to do something a little different. The first two shows I'd done systems that were very heavy point by rules systems, and I wanted to do something that was slightly different. In particular, I wanted to do a game that uses the Fate system, which is another favorite of mine, which is in a lot of ways very different from the systems I've done the last couple of weeks. So I started by saying asking people what Fate game I should do a character for. And the choices I gave were the Atomic Robo RPG, War of Ashes, Fate of Agaptus, some other setting that uses Fate core rules, or some other setting that uses the Fate Accelerated Edition rules. And as you can see, Atomic Robo won by quite a high margin. So knowing that I was going to be making an Atomic Robo character, I asked what should the character's main mode of activity be, because that's very important to the character creation rules in Atomic Robo. So the choices are action, banter, intrigue, and science. And as you can see, science won by a lot, and then banter and intrigue were pretty close. And nobody wanted this character to be action oriented, which was interesting. But this is actually a good outcome because when I actually get into making the character, I'm going to have to choose 3 of these 4. And since the poll ended up telling me the 3 that I should pick and the order I should pick them in, this should make this whole process go smoother. So how about we just we get started? So I've got the Google Doc open that I'm going to be working in, and I've got the PDF up as well. So here's what we're going to do. Let's just cut straight to, there's a step-by-step section for creating a character using what Atomic Robo calls the easy no math character creation. And so a little overview of Fate. Fate is it's sort of a, some people would call it more of a narrative, almost indie style game. Some people would say it leans more toward the traditional side of the spectrum. It really, I think, depends on how you approach it. But the reason that people can look at it from 2 different directions is, one, it has, or at least the Fate core implementation has skills which are pretty traditional in that they tell you these are the things that you can do, and which of these things are you particularly good at, which are you less good at. On the other side of it, Fate has aspects, which are narrative hooks that can both benefit your character when they're doing things and can also complicate your character's life in interesting ways. And they fuel the economy of sort of meta narrative points called fate points, which sort of are the heart of the system. And pretty much every Fate character is going to start by looking at their aspects, and in particular, they're going to have what Atomic Robo calls your concept aspect, which is a sum up phrase that tells you the basics of what you need to know for your character. So let me... So as you can see here, you have your concept aspect. Then you're going to have mode aspects, and this is an interesting thing that Atomic Robo does. That goes back to what I was saying about the poll that I did with the modes of activity. Every character in Atomic Robo, except for really weird ones like Robo himself, who is a robot, will choose 3 of the 4 modes: action, banter, intrigue, and science. And those basically tell you everything you need to know about what skills you have and what levels you have them at. So we know right off the bat that this character has science first, and then banter, and then intrigue, and no action. And each of those modes is going to get its own aspect as well. So I'm going to write those, at least the category names in here under the aspects. And then the last aspect for a Robo character is what's called the Omega aspect, which is just one extra thing that makes your character interesting, a recurring problem that they have to deal with, or whatever. So let's go back to the easy step-by-step. So it says start by writing down your concept. So the concept that I was kicking around in my head for this character was an experimental historian. Basically, Atomic Robo is a world of super science and weirdness and conspiracies and all kinds of stuff. And I thought it would be interesting if there was somebody, an action scientist, which is what all the characters are called, an action scientist who takes the idea of history not as a humanity but as a hard science, and in a world where it just might be possible to stumble upon or invent a time machine, this is somebody who can actually perform real world experimentation with potentially disastrous results. So for a concept, the idea I had is that this is somebody who is very interested in the ways that history could have gone wrong, or more wrong, and like safeguarding against those things. So this would be somebody who's more of like a time cop, somebody who is a historian that is out to stop other people from screwing up history. So I'm thinking for the concept, it's like the question that drives them. You know, it's something like, what could have gone wrong? Which is good enough for now. And then after you've got the concept down, it says, to go and look at and rate your 3 modes. So we know that science is first, so that gets the best roll of the best value rather of good +3. So Fate rates all of its skills and difficulties on what they call the ladder, which is a list that combines an adjective description and a numerical description. I'm just filling in the other values because they're predefined. Your best mode you get at good +3, your second mode you get at fair +2, and your third best mode you get at average +1. Now, what what these modes are at their core are packages of skills. Atomic Robo has a list of skills, and each of these modes gives you a number of them. Now, and you get the skills in each mode at the level that is listed for the mode, unless that skill appears on more than one of your modes. And to find that out, I'm going to go down here to the modes, skills, and stunts chapter. I'm going to look at the modes and the standard modes for what I have. And I don't have action, so I'm going to skip over. Oh, really? Where did the modes go? Weird. There they are, standard modes. I was in the wrong section. So here's the skills that are associated with banter. So it's contacts, deceive, empathy, provoke, rapport, and will. Just get those in a list under banter. And then for intrigue, it's athletics, burglary, contacts, deceive, notice, and stealth. Get those in a nice list. And you can see already that I have some overlap for contacts and deceive. And then for science, science is the odd man out, because science, the only regular skills it gets are notice and will. But then it gets every scientific skill that you could want, which they're not predefined. You can come up with your own types of science. But will overlaps with banter, and notice overlaps with intrigue. So going back to the easy step-by-step and looking at the next step, we will reinforce any of the skills that appear on more than one mode. So what that means is for each additional mode that a skill appears in after the first, it goes up by a level. So you start with it at the level of the highest rated mode that's it's in. So for notice and will, they're both going to start at good +3. But since they overlap with one other mode each, they're both going to go up to great +4. And then we can take them off of the modes that they overlap on, because you only have a skill listed under a single mode, and it'll be the highest mode that you have that skill under. So then contacts and deceive both appear on banter and intrigue. So I'm going to take them off of intrigue, and I'm going to reinforce them on banter, which means that they both go up to good +3. Now the rest of the skills on my other modes stay at the level that they that the corresponding mode is at for now. I will have a chance to increase those in time. Although that is later in the process than where we are right now. So for now, we're just going to move on to the next step in the easy creation process, which is my stress boxes. Now, stress is sort of the thing that replaces hit points in a Fate game, or in most Fate games. And it's basically, it represents, near misses, being rattled, pushing yourself to avoid a hit, anything that doesn't leave you with lasting damage. And you have 2 stress tracks in Robo. You've got physical stress and mental stress. And the way you calculate those is you look for physical, you look for either the athletics skill or the physique skill. And if you have it at fair and or good, it goes up. They both start at 2. I do not have athletics or physique at higher than at fair or higher, so my physical stays at 2. But I do have will, and it's great. So I'm going up here to the earlier section. And since I have it at least good, I add 2 boxes to my mental stress track for having a great will. Even if I didn't have the great will, I have provoke at fair, so I would get at least 1 box for that. But you basically just take the best one. I'm sorry, that's a lie. Robo works a little bit differently. I'm just reading the text here. They're cumulative for the different modes. So I've got will in my good mode, and I've got provoke in my fair mode. So I'll end up with 3 extra, so 5 total. Still don't have any extra physicals because I'm a weakling and don't have athletics higher than average. After that, it says to fill in details. The details that I would want to look at right now are stunts, which are little extra tricks that typically affect your skills in narrow situations. So let's go ahead and click on this link. I get 3 stunts that I'm allowed to take, and then sorry, 5, because this is Robo and I'm more awesome. I get 5 stunt slots, and it says that you're pretty much always better off defining these during play in the moments that they're needed. But if you want to pick one or more of them before play begins, go right ahead. So I'm at least going to go and take a look at the stunts. So stunts do typically one of a few things. They can add a bonus to a skill roll in a particular situation, and it's usually a +2. So examples they give: +2 to defend with combat when outnumbered, +2 to attack with provoke when your target has 1 or more consequences. Consequences being lasting damage, where stress is stuff that you can shake off. Consequences are things that linger. The other thing that they suggest for this type of stunt is it gives a +1 bonus to more things or wider situations. Other than that, you can add a new action to a skill. So normally each skill can only do certain actions like attack or defend or overcome some sort of obstacle or create advantages for you, which allow you to manipulate aspects for benefit. But if you have a stunt that says that your skill can do an extra action above and beyond what it normally can do, then that costs a stunt. Add a rules exception to a skill basically lets you break the rules of the game in a small way to your benefit, such as Mind Over Matter says once per scene you can check a mental stress box to absorb physical harm. Have a signature aspect. So this is a special kind of stunt in Robo, which basically lets you you pick one of your aspects, and once per issue, which means once per session, basically, you can invoke that aspect for free once. And invoking is how you get benefit from your aspects. If you have an aspect that could help you out in a scene, you have to invoke it, which normally costs a fate point, which come and go. But this one just says, nope, once per session, once per issue, I can just invoke it for free. Personal hardware lets you get fancy gadgets, which Atomic Robo has a whole system of rules for that do things like give you armor, which lets you absorb damage from attacks, give you weapon rating, which lets you do more damage with your attacks. And the rules for them are later in the book and really kind of fall outside the scope of let's make a character. And then if I were playing a weird character like a robot or a dinosaur or something, I could get a mega stunt, which is basically a superpower that wraps up a bunch of stuff into one single stunt. But I don't have any of those. So let's look at the different skills that I have. And there are a few of them. So, I mean, obviously you can see the ones that I already had. I think I'm just going to follow their advice and say that this character will be waiting for his stunts for during play. So let's go back to my aspects and fill in at least the mode aspects. So for science, I'm just going to put in my my specialty of experimental historian. For banter, I kind of like the idea of this character being sort of the stereotypical nerd who needs to explain everything to everyone. Not because he's trying to look smart, but just because he likes to teach. He wants people to know things. If it was him wanting to look smart, I might put something down like, well, actually. But I like the idea of him doing it not to make other people feel bad, but just because he loves sharing knowledge. So trying to think of how I would phrase this. One of the things that I both love and kind of have concern over when it comes to Fate, and particularly making Fate characters, is how to word an aspect. I see in some Fate games aspects that are a little too flowery or clever, and they make it hard to understand what the aspect is good for. And I run into this problem myself sometimes, and I work hard to simplify, clarify, and just encapsulate the idea as succinctly as possible. So for this aspect, I think I want to go with something that is simple, but still gets the idea across that this is not a hurtful way of interacting with people. So something like... learn something new every day. Which is, both an axiom that this character might follow, but also something that an opportunity that they would like to present to others. And then Intrigue is the mode for sneaking around, and it's sort of the James Bond, when he's not seducing or quipping at the card table, and he's not just flat out shooting a dude in the face. It's when he's sneaking around and eavesdropping and doing all the spy stuff. I think to bring it back to him being a scientist, something like observation is key. So he focuses more on the eavesdropping and the covert observation portions of it. I'm going to leave the Omega aspect blank because Robo especially wants you to leave things blank. Like I'm not filling in the stunts at this stage. I'm not. I'm going to leave those for during play. The one thing I am going to do is I am going to go through the improving skills portion, because this is another thing that could be left to do during play. But I'm going to do it right now just because I like having all of that in mind ahead of time. So I am, and the rules are different for characters who took science as one of their modes, as opposed to those who took the other three without taking science. Because it has that all science skills are trained rider, has such a wider focus. And in Robo, they really do a great job of making those science skills important in things like the brainstorming rules, which is where the players actually decide the nature of the mystery of the week by brainstorming and tossing out hypotheses, and you use your science skills for that in a lot of cases, because the mysteries are based on science. These are action scientists. But because it has all of those skills trained, I am, any science skill, like I'm a good physicist, I'm a good chemist, I'm a good biologist, even though my specialty is this experimental history. So because I have science, I can do three things. First, I can specialize one of the skills that I'm trained in. So that is, I take a skill that is still only rated at its mode level, and I increase it by 2. So for instance, if I wanted to take rapport, which is how well I get on with people and can make friends, and I could raise it from fair +2, which is where it's at right now. I could raise it to great +4. In fact, that's actually what I'm going to do, because I like that idea. I like this being a very personable character. That was weird. And so that is my specialize one trained skill. Then I can focus one trained skill. Focus is take a skill and raise it by a single level. So I think I'm going to raise my stealth from 1 to 2. This guy is not very, he's average when it comes to things of intrigue, but he's a bit better in stealth. And then finally, I can specialize one focus skill. So the skills go trained, which means it's at your mode level, focused, which means it's one above your mode level, and then specialized, which means it's 2 above. And actually, I'm going to go back because I don't want to train my stealth, because I actually wanted to give myself my scientific specialty. So I'm going to take a term that was coined by game designer Ken Hite, which is cleology, which is the hard scientific study of history. He created it for GURPS Infinite Earths, which is their parallel worlds and alternate histories campaign setting for GURPS. Ken created the term cleology to be the study of how timelines shift, and what the important linchpin points are in a given period of time that can cause reality to shift drastically if they're altered. So that is going to be my character's scientific focus, which means that I'm going to focus that, because it started out trained for science, and then for focus one trained skill, I increased it to 4. Now I can specialize one focused skill. So that means it's got to be either cleology, notice, will, contacts, or deceive. And I think it is going to be... It's going to be notice, because it's part of his observational nature, which I gave the aspect for observation's key. So he's very observant and very good at noticing things. So that is all I do for improving skills. Maybe I will go and just try and build a stunt. What kind of stunt would I build? Sorry, I'm just thinking. Okay, so I am going to... I'm going to take a signature aspect stunt. And I'm going to give the experimental historian, make it a signature aspect. So I'm just going to say signature aspect. I am an experimental historian. And then I'm going to go up to that. I'm just going to put a little asterisk next to it so that I know that it's special. And that means that during play, I still have 4 stunt slots left. I can, at any point, I can just say, you know what? This is something that I want to be really good at, so I'm going to add a bonus stunt. Or say, well, what if I know a trick that lets me, lets me use my my notice to I don't know. No, you know what? Add a new action to a skill lets me use my physics and knowledge of simple machines like levers in place of physique. So I grab a stick and do the whole give me a lever long enough and I can move the world thing. But those are things that I could if I needed them in play, I could do them. I could add them to my character later. And Atomic Robo is totally about that sort of thing. But as you can see, it is a very quick process for creating at least the bare essentials of character for this game. It will... If you're not used to how aspects go together or what makes a good aspect, if you're not, if you haven't played Fate before, aspects are, it's weird. They are deceptively, they look like they should be simple in a lot of ways and complicated in a lot of different ways. And I think that people get tripped up either thinking that they are simpler than they are or that they are way harder than they are. An aspect could be as simple as, guy with a sword. If you're in a fantasy game and you're the guy with a sword, you're really good at being the guy with the sword. And more than that, it's important that you be the guy with the sword. Then you can just write down guy with a sword on your character sheet. As long as you understand it, the aspect should have some way that it will work against you, and it should have some way that it can help you out. So I've left the Omega slot empty, and in fact in Robo for the aspects, the number of aspects that you filled in, that's how many fate points you start off each issue with. But then during play, when you fill in an aspect, you immediately get that fate point as sort of a little immediate gratification for having done, having filled in a little bit more about your character, made your character a little more rounded and a little more interesting in the moment. If I wanted, I could have left the skill increases to take place during play. But like I said, I personally like to know where the skills sit. But before I get started. But that's just me. So there we have it. That is a character for the Atomic Robo role-playing game. Really didn't take all that much time, about half as long as my last episode, but thank you for joining me. And if you liked this show, like it on whatever service you're watching it on, favorite, follow, subscribe, whatever, wherever you're watching it. Twitter at Paul Stefko. I put the polls up there, as well as on Google Plus. I'm Paul Stefko on Google Plus. If you like the show and want to support it, you can find me on Patreon at patreon.com/Paul Stefko. And until next time, thanks a lot, and I'll see you later.